try to make sure, like, my friends that didn't choose the streets, the ones that we consider to be squares, like, I always try to make sure I tell them how proud of them I am. Because they the strong ones. They the tough guys. They the ones who didn't break. Most of us broke early in life, man. We fell to the pressure. We fell to the temptation. And they came outside the same hood and walked past the same temptation, all the shit that's going on, the peer pressure, and they stayed focused. They stayed focused. They ain't let that shit break them. All the girls calling them lames, not wanting to give them no pussy because they considered to be a square and corny and all that shit, and they still stayed on course. They didn't break. Then you got us that going in and out of jail, and we come home and motherfuckers praise us like we did something so good. Like, oh, what you did? Oh, because you ain't tell. Like, oh, yeah, because you was so ignorant. You was ignorant on a high level. We rewarding you, huh? There goes some clothes and some money in your pocket. Welcome home. But homie who just did 4 years in college, we ain't got shit for him. And I'm talking about me. Because it's dudes that went to college, came back and seen me, and I ain't have nothing for them. Yo, what's up, yo? I'm proud of you, bro. But my man who come home from jail, niggas trying to figure out how to scramble up some money to get him some outfits and all this shit, man. Straight ass backwards shit. And the ones who we consider to be the squares is the ones that always show up in the end. Those is the real friends. The square ones is the ones that always come and show up in the end and hold you down. They deserve their flowers. They are the real ones, man.
I'm your professor, I will test you in the worst way. Don't bring a scantron, it's pop quizzes all day. Cause of our chemistry, we do biology. What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail, more importantly, you saw the clip. Let's be honest about the hood square thing, you know what I'm saying? The lames versus the hood dudes. A lot of this stuff is highly exaggerated. And the disrespect is rooted in stupidity, right? So most people who were getting into crime were doing it for the money. Okay? That's what they were doing it for, the money. It was fast money, it was easy money. And then you could say there was a name or prestige or whatever in girls or whatever. But initially it was the money, okay? First and foremost. The idea that guys were lame because they weren't dealing drugs or robbing people or in a gang. Truth is, those guys weren't really lame. It was they wasn't with it because you got some people who really couldn't stick up for themselves, so they got into the streets. It wasn't, and some people were poor because so that's why they got into the streets. But for the most part, in the hood, people weren't getting into all that stuff. You see, a lot of y'all seem to skip a certain step with this. Most of the people who grow up in neighborhoods know each other from childhood. So people knew each other before they got into gangs and illegal activity. And most of those people weren't really built like that. They weren't, and I hate to break the news to you, a lot of them wasn't bad kids who became criminals. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't like that. It was, there was the people who their families got them into stuff because their families was like that, or the family was poor. There's a bunch of people, and the kid was like, I got to do something, whether to make money to help the house, whether to make money to eat, whether to get money for school clothes, stuff like that. That's how that went. Then you had people who thought it was quote unquote, well, who were bullied, and they joined the gang for protection. But they didn't want to say that. You know what I'm saying? They're going to say, oh, it's a family environment. No, it was for protection because they were soft. My dog. And then you had people who got involved because they thought it was cool. So, and usually those people were people who didn't have a direction. So when you got the young high school environment, you had people who were going somewhere and people who wasn't. Most of the people who were going somewhere weren't in the gangs, but there were some people in the gangs that were going somewhere. And the gang life, either either the gangs were like, "Hey, go that route," or the gangs drag them down. You know, more times than not, I'm gonna say the gang life dragged them down. And some people wasn't even really affiliated like that. What it was maybe your brother was in it. Maybe your cousin, your best friend, they was in it. You wasn't affiliated, but because around certain people, you were looked at as part of that, even when you wasn't. So part of this thing with people being cool, we thought people were crash dummies. If you actually got into crime because you wanted girls and you went to jail, and you got yourself hunted down, stomped out, or killed because, "Hey, I did it for girls and look cool," you was a crash dummy. Let's just be honest about it. You know, you leave home, you come back, and you see the same person doing the same thing. Now, are there people who wind up being successful in life financially in gang life? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But in all honesty, I probably knew hundreds of people in gangs. Off the top of my head, I can only think of four of them that were successful. Like, seriously. Everybody else wasted their life. And, then the being called lame and square. Like, a lot of times, the guys and the girls will play that game. Well, if you wasn't active, you was lame and square. Not really. And the crazy part about it is, if you were a really good athlete or you're a really good student, you got the lame and square thing out of jealousy, honestly. Um, because then people knew they going to college or somewhere, they ain't gonna be here next year. You know, they was hoping that you was gonna show how cool you were, and put yourself in a bad spot and ruin your future. That's pretty much what it was. Um, but the guys who like, "Yo, man, these guys are really the cool ones," after the fact, I'm gonna tell you something. That's They learned that after the fact. After the fact. Because a lot of the stuff that was supposed to be cool wasn't cool. Like, let me tell you, like, true story. A guy I went to school with was working under a guy that a friend of mine was dating. He was a grown man. She's a freshman or sophomore at the time. Um, but he hanging out with this guy. Guys in the streets. He wants to be in the streets like his, I guess, mentor. He gets shot. They at some he gets shot. They doing something basically. So instead of taking him to the hospital to get him patched up or save his life, he drives to the hospital, drops him off by the dumpster, and drives off. So he dies basically looking at the hospital door to save himself, because old boy didn't want to put himself in a position to be seen by the cameras or blah blah blah, etc. So old boy died because of that. Um, People don't look at that as cool, right? You got other people who were straight haters. They have had people who basically kill people because he going places and I ain't. Then you had the situations where, like I said earlier, guys were bullied, so they got in the gangs because I want to bully somebody else. And usually, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all about it when I say it like this, if you get like five guys together that's in a gang and they don't have any guns on them, if you could reasonably fight, you probably could beat three of them. I'm just gonna be honest with you. They're not really built like that. And the reason why I say you could beat three of them, you outnumbered. But probably all of them can't fight, and three of them on drugs, and they out of shape. So If it look like it's a 1-on-5, not really. It's a 1-on-2 because they can't really punch or nothing like that. Like people not built like that. Um, Another thing, I forgot to say it. Part of this was built in stupidity, where, as y'all are seeing now, a lot of people who take the criminal route really, the vast majority of them ain't that bright. They special ed or on the verge of special ed type of people. They do dumb stuff, and they make dumb stuff look cool because they get, because that's their persona. Like, oh, I'm reckless, I'm wild, you scary. It's like, no, you just stupid. Because nobody in their right mind would do some of this stuff. Thus, the criminal mentality. Because a lot of times these guys get caught up being stupid. They don't get. They're not mastermind. They do stuff that's gonna get them caught up. Everybody saw you. Everybody know you. Okay, fine, whatever. So a lot of this, you know, when they say guys went to school, went to work, just and those guys are lame, and years later, when you add up the money, for the most part, people who stayed out of the streets have more money than people who was in the streets. So don't get it twisted. Most of the people who stayed out of the streets can actually live on their own. Most of the people who was in the streets living with somebody. That's just the reality of it. So when you do this, hood, real ninjas versus lames, it's kind of like your life pans it out. And even the people who were associated, even the ladies who thought it was cool, thought dudes was lame. That's who you hear with most of these complaints about men, is ladies who wanted to be with a real ninja, and then life smacked them in the face, and the lames wouldn't pick up the slack. So, I mean, but when you're young, a lot of times you want camaraderie. That's why I tell people they need to play sports or get in a chess club or something like that to get around people, because a lot of that comes from not having social skills. So I'm gonna leave it at that. You tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe, or die trying. Catch you on the next one. Peace. You ever been at the top of the universe? I'm gonna say it again.